Hi there, this is a GCSE PE revision video using the AQA specification, and we're looking at levers. So a lever is a rigid bar that enables rotation to take place around an axis. There are three parts that then are added to the lever, that being the fulcrum, which is usually a joint in the body, but it's the point of which the lever is able to turn. We have the load, which is referred to as the weight, and effort, which is the force that's applied, typically the muscles contracting and exerting force. So that's our starting point. When we look at the fulcrum, you'll typically see it displayed as a triangle. The weight, or the load as it's sometimes called, will be demonstrated as a square. Sometimes there's a downward arrow, possibly even in the square, and then effort is always demonstrated as an arrow. So the memory tool to enable us to remember this is FLE123. Now, when we're talking about FLE, fulcrum load effort, we're referring to what comes in the middle of the lever. So this section here, we are referring to the middle part of the lever. As you can see, they're displayed with either a triangle, a square, sometimes with an arrow either underneath it or inside it, and then an arrow for effort, which is muscular contractions. So let's try and apply this now. Always, we refer to the memory tool of FLE123. So these are the typical questions you're likely to be asked in the exam. Draw a linear first-class lever, i.e. kind of a 2D shape, and label it. Now, that's the big thing. Once you see a question, it's very important that it is labeled. We'll do that next, though. Let's look at the linear lever to start with. So when we talk about a linear lever, remember that it is FLE 1, 2, 3. So in this case, the fulcrum is in the middle. So therefore, we put the triangle in the middle. Doesn't matter which way round you put the rest of the information. Let's put the load or the resistance on this side, and we will put the effort on this side. Now, good practice is that you put your effort arrow in a way that it would be pulling, because muscles can only pull. There are some exam answers that you'll see that the arrow is kind of at the top, like so. But in those cases, that's technically inaccurate because muscles cannot push, they can only pull. So when we look at a linear lever, again, it's done it the same way around this way, but if the square, the load was on this side and the effort on this side, that would be fine as well. Good practice with this one, the arrow is pulling, i.e. pulling down this so that the load will increase. Now, tip, as we're looking at past paper questions, is that most exam answers that you will see, most examples will refer to the tricep being the agonist when there is a isotonic concentric contraction. We'll look at some examples soon. Here, draw a second class linear lever. So again, let's do our FLE 1, 2, 3. So in this case, it's a second class lever, so the load goes in the middle. So in that case, we know that the load goes in the middle. That's our square. And again, it doesn't matter which way around you put it. So let me do the effort on this side. Again, pulling, so the arrow going upwards from the lever, and that means that the fulcrum must go on this side. Now, the answers that you will see, or the exam questions you will see, will typically be where the gastrocnemius is the agonist, leading to plantar flexion, i.e. the toes pointing or going onto your toes. So anything at the ankle is a second class lever. Third, let's do our memory tool again. FLE 1, 2, 3. This is a third class lever, so we know that the effort is in the middle. So let's do our line. There's our effort. Good practice with the arrow going away from the lever. And again, it doesn't matter which way round you put these. So let's say I put the fulcrum on this side this time and the load here. So the important thing is that the effort is in the middle. And most answers within the body, most levers within the body are third class. Memory tool, 3 is a knee. Anything at the knee is a third class lever, but it's also in many other joints in the body, particularly where you've got flexion at the elbow. Let's talk about some examples next. So this is what an exam answer may look like. Normally there's 1 mark for identifying what lever system is in operation and 2 further marks for drawing and then labeling You'll often see this word here, label a linear lever. It's such an easy mark to get that second mark just for labeling. So the first thing that we would do is we draw our lever. There it is here. We need to work out which lever system is in operation. Now remember our memory tool of FLE 1, 2, 3, but we also identified that a first class lever is any action whereby there is extension at the elbow in an isotonic concentric contraction. So in this example, it therefore must be a first class lever. So let's draw it, FLE 1, 2, 3. That means the fulcrum's got to be in the middle. Doesn't matter which way around you put the other two bits. We always pull, so good practice there. But then we need to label it for the second mark. So load, or you might put resistance, fulcrum, and effort. That's our 3 marks secure. This is the mark scheme. So 1 mark for saying it is a first class lever. I've written it as first in that respect. If you'd written first, that would be fine as well. And then you notice that it's actually gone the same way as mine. The important bit being the fulcrum's in the middle with FLE 1, 2, 3, fulcrum in the middle, and then load and resistance either way, but it's got to be labeled. I've done a little line labeling them. If you'd just written it next to it, that would be fine as well. Other examples. You've got here, I know there's writing on this already, but draw a lever system which operates at the ankle joint. That obviously is a different lever system, which would be second, but let's say that this question, instead of ankle, was referring to elbow, BOW, trying to write and talk. Now we know that we've got it at the elbow, which must be a first with the fulcrum in the middle because we've got extension with an isotonic concentric contraction at the agonist. Other example, again, this one is the elbow. So we've got extension going from A to B of the arm. So therefore, again, it is an isotonic concentric contraction. So it's a first class lever. Here, this answer is a little bit tricky. It has talked about the elbow again, but this time it's trying to catch you out by putting from picture B to A, rather than in most cases it would go from A to B. This one's asking you to go the other way, trying to trick you in the question. So if you've got a flexed elbow that's going to be extension at the elbow, it's exactly the same as a football throw-in, a line out in rugby, a darts throw, throwing a shot put or a javelin, any of those answers, if the elbow is extending and there's an isotonic concentric contraction, it's a first class lever. So let's move on to a second class lever. And then again, remember our memory tool, FLE 1, 2, 3. So we know that any second class lever is what's taking place at the ankle. This one does talk about the ankle, identify. So we need to just give the information. What is the lever? That's the topic area at the ankle. So in this case, we know that it is second class lever. Let's draw it. The load has got to go in the middle. That's our FLE 1, 2, 3. And then from this perspective, it doesn't matter which way around you do it. So let me do effort on this side this time and the fulcrum on this side. Notice that the minute that we're only getting 1 mark for this, because this is the bit that people often forget, we've got to label our diagram. So load, effort. What an easy mark. Okay, and here's our mark scheme. Notice, as we said earlier, that sometimes the load will have an arrow inside it. Good practice, this mark scheme is pulling away from the lever system, but the load is in the middle. Second class lever for 1 mark, draw the linear lever for 2, label it for 3. Another one here, we've seen this one earlier. There's been no question with elbow, so we use the same one, but here you can see that it does say ankle. So therefore we know that it's a second class lever. FLE 1, 2, 3, the load is in the middle. It's exactly the same as our last question. So third class lever then. Again, identify the lever system being used at the elbow during the forehand tennis stroke. So lever is the topic area, box the key word. So in this case, we know that it is third. So it is a third class lever. Draw our lever system, FLE 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's a third class lever because 3's a knee, but it's also flexion at the elbow in most cases. So therefore, it's got to be effort in the middle, load on one side, and fulcrum on the other side. So fulcrum, effort, load, or resistance. Labeled diagram. There's our 3 marks. Third mark is for labeling. Here's the mark scheme. You can see they've done it the other way, but the load is on one end, you've got the effort in the middle, and the fulcrum underneath. It's all labeled. Same principle here. Notice that we've got a footballer that's kicking the ball. So we've gone from a flexed knee to an extended knee. 3 is a knee. Third class lever. It's exactly the same. Effort in the middle. Make sure that you label it. So just as a reminder, remember FLE 1, 2, 3. The memory tool relates to what comes in the middle of the lever system, and then you'll be able to work out the other 2. Always label it because it's normally a second easy mark. First class levers require the tricep to be the agonist when there's extension at the elbow and it's a concentric contraction. Second class levers is anything at the ankle, and third class levers is most other actions, but remember that 3 is a knee.